Hi there, I'm Irk and this is my channel, Get Irked. In this episode, I'm taking a run at investing in Nike. Should we just do it? In this episode, I wanted to take a deep dive into Nike, the apparel company that is the powerhouse of the sector. However, one of the big reasons that it is always the best to invest in isn't because it's a great apparel company, it's because Nike is a great technology company. This is a company that never fails to innovate. Even in the rare case where another company is the leader in the space over Nike, Nike always takes it back. In fact, it's always worth owning Nike when it's doing well, but it's even better an investment when it's not doing well because it will come back and beat whoever took them out. In this episode, we're going to go over Nike's fundamentals. I'll give you a buying plan of what I would do if I didn't already hold shares in the stock, and then we're going to go over my own investment, where it's come from, and where it's going to go into the future. First, let's take a look at Nike's fundamentals. Nike's ticker symbol is NKE, and as you can see, it currently has a PE ratio of 35.21. As I've said in my other videos, a regular stock with a PE ratio of over 20 is considered overvalued, and a growth stock like Nike is considered overvalued when it has a PE ratio over 30. But when you're talking about best in breed in the space, sometimes you do have to pay up because they're worth that extra premium. In addition to its PE ratio being overvalued, you can see that Yahoo Finance's own calculations for valuation also say that Nike is overvalued at its current price point. But like I said, there is that price premium. Sometimes you just have to pay up for best in breed. One of the great things about Nike is in addition to having a really long track record, it was started in the 1960s, it also provides a dividend. Now it's not much, it pays $1.16 a year, which at current levels works out to a yield of 0.87%, but that's still better than competitors like Under Armour or Lululemon. It's important to remember that given the current economic climate and the geopolitical concerns that are facing all of the companies, Nike is one of those companies that could come under fire, both from inflation but also from supply chain issues. And although there are analysts who just recently came out and said Nike's next quarter, which it reports in June, is going to be excellent, it's important to remember all those negative catalysts as well, because they could negatively impact Nike's stock price. Next, let's take a look at Nike on a chart so we can develop a buying plan. As I normally like to do, we're going to start by drawing a Fibonacci retracement from Nike's pandemic low to its all-time high in 2021. And you can see from Nike's all-time high at $179.10 that it does respect the Fibonacci retracement lines on the way down, as it came down to 38.2% at $133.60 and found support regularly in the past. From there, Nike did sell down through the 50% retracement down here at $119.55 before bouncing back up over the 38.2% retracement, falling back through it, and then finding resistance at it again recently. From its all-time high to where it is currently, Nike has sold off more than 25%, which makes it an interesting investment. Normally, I would put 50% of the allocation I wanted to put into an investment in all at once, but because of the headwinds that Nike could be facing over the next year, I would stick to a 25% allocation initially. However, because it's performed so well, you can see that we've got a support line here at $131.15, so this would probably be where I'd make my first buy. I'd start with that 25% allocation, and then I'd use 10% allocations to add to the position as it sold off from there. If it never sells off, then that 25% allocation is what I have in Nike, and I wouldn't add to it at above these prices. Nike does have the tendency to sell off more than a lot of people could think it would. Like I said, I've been holding Nike since 2012, and I can tell you there are a lot of sell-offs where Nike broke through lows that everyone thought were going to provide support and then didn't. After this first buy, I would actually shoot through the 50% retracement, as you see that Nike's done it in the past, and I'd use this day here at $117.75 or somewhere around there as my next buy. From there, we do need to pull back on the chart, and you can see that we've got a 61.8% retracement down here at $105.50, but when you look in the past, you can see that it regularly found support above that level, so I'd probably use this day here as my next buy, with a target around $111.74. After that, I would go down the 61.8% retracement. You can see there's a lot of price action in the past, and I'd probably use the low of this day as my next buy, here at $105.12. After that, I would come down here, and you can see we've got a lot of support in the past, particularly on this day here, and I would use $95.92 or round that up to 96 and use that as my next buy. After that, you can see that the 78.2% 9.6% retracement around $85 has provided a significant amount of support in the past, so I'd probably use the low of this day as my next buy, down here at $85.15. From there, we move down, and you can see that during the pandemic sell-off, there was a lot of significant areas of support, so I'd probably use this day at $71.76 as my next buy. And even though Nike did hit a low of $60 during the sell-off, you can see that it regularly finds support above it, so I'd probably use this day as my next buy at $62.40. You can see that with those buys at $62.40, we would have a 95% allocation in Nike. And even though it's incredibly unlikely that Nike will ever even see the pandemic lows, I like having that 5% cash on the sidelines just in case the unheard of happens, Nike breaks through its pandemic lows, and now you can add a little bit more at even lower levels. Nike is one of the oldest positions in my investments in play portfolio. I initially started it in 2012. Before I bought Nike, I was invested in Under Armour because I thought I could outthink the markets. I initially got started in the stock market in 1998, and then I got blown out in 2001 during the tech bubble burst, and smacked hard again in 2008, but I still hadn't learned my lesson. I thought consumers would switch to Under Armour, so rather than buy Nike, which was also a little bit expensive on the stock price comparatively, I went with Under Armour, which regularly underperformed while Nike regularly outperformed. Finally, on February 14th, 2012, I wised up, I got rid of my Under Armour position, I switched to Nike, and I made my first buy at $26.71. Since that initial buy was more than a decade ago, we're not going to go over the play-by-play. We'll skip to where I was right before the pandemic, and then we'll cover what I've done since that sell-off in March of 2020. In March of 2020, before the pandemic started, Nike was trading around $103 a share, and my personal position was at negative $54.91 per share. A negative per share cost means I took out all the original capital I'd ever put into the Nike position in addition to $54.91 in profit per share. And just like every other stock in the market, the pandemic sell-off was not good to Nike. Nike hit its low on March 18th of 2020 at $60 even. And as you can see, I do follow my own discipline, and I made several buys in Nike on the way down, with my last buy on March 16th of 2020 at $64.69, a little above its $60 low, and it raised my per share cost to negative $21.31. And from there, just like the other stocks in the market, Nike really took off from its bottom. However, in 2020, I still took profits because we had no idea whether or not the market would retest its lows, and I didn't want to be too greedy with all of the position that I had added to it. I made sells at several key points throughout 2020, including May and September and October, with my last sale on October 21st at $131.18, which left me with a per share cost of negative $35.55. However, Nike was not done going up. Once I saw that Nike was going to continue outperforming, I realized that it was time to add some capital back into my position, even if it meant that I was going to raise my per share cost. So I made my first buy on February 23rd of 2021 at $132.11 when Nike pulled back from its then high, and this raised my per share cost to negative $29.85. In June of 2021, Nike reported a blowout earnings quarter that was so good that it jumped 20% in a single day before rocketing higher to make an all-time high up here at $174.38. So I made my next buy during the September sell-off on September 14th at $157.57. This buy raised my per share cost to negative $18.95, and from there I decided it was time to let Nike go a little bit longer to see where it might find support again in the future. Nike ended up breaking through its previous all-time high to make a new all-time high up here at $179.10. However, one of my rules is that I don't like to buy above a previous buy. So even though Nike had made a new all-time high, my price target was still below the $157 price target where I'd made my last buy. Nike ended up breaking down with the rest of the market early in 2022, where it triggered my next buy order on January 10th at $150.50, which left me with a per share cost of negative $13.75. But Nike wasn't done selling off at that point. Nike ended up triggering my next and most recent buy on March 7th of 2022 to at $127.10, which left me with a per share cost of negative $9.59. And from here, my next price target is $112.79, slightly above a past point of support. And of course, I still have additional buys well below that point just in case Nike continues to sell off from here. Nike's long-standing history of both innovation and excellent management, in addition to what it does for shareholders by buybacks and dividends, makes this one of my favorite core positions for my investments in Play portfolio. In fact, I see no reason why I wouldn't hold Nike years and years into the future. This is a very long-term investment for me and will remain that way as long as Nike continues to perform as well as it has in the past. To learn more, check out my website, getirk.com, which is always 100% free. Please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.